Welcome to Keeping It Real with KC. I am your host, KC Phoenix, and this video is an introduction to the episode. It is actually a little bit humorous. I'm doing this as a warning before the episode starts. Usually, I just let videos fly because it's more like raw, unedited. There it is. You can take it as you want. For this particular episode, because it was more of a heartfelt episode for Father's Day, I didn't feel comfortable doing or letting the video play. The reason was, and I blamed this on Mercury being in retrograde right now. Those who know about Mercury in retrograde know what I'm talking about. That's the only thing I can blame right now. I didn't check my face when I was recording because when I record, I do my best to look into the camera because that's a big thing where people record videos, but then they're looking at the screen over here when the camera's over here. And I don't like watching myself on screen anyway. Like I barely watch the videos that I record. I'll watch usually the first 30 seconds just to make sure that it recorded, and then after that I'll just go ahead and upload it. And as soon as I turned on the video, the first thing I noticed was something in my nose. And like I said, if it wouldn't have been more of a heartfelt, if this wouldn't have been more of a heartfelt episode, I would have just been like, hey guys, there's something in my nose, overlook that. But since this was so not planned, since that happened, I didn't want that to distract from the message itself. So I took the video out and left the audio for this episode is what I did. And I just want to give you a heads up on that. And if you want to go to the main podcasting website, which is at KIRWKC.com, just to listen to the episode there, I totally understand, totally get it. If you're fine listening while watching the logo on YouTube or Dailymotion, then that's cool too. As I will mention in the episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. KIRWKC on Twitter, KIRWKC on Instagram. And thank you for your understanding during this little nose video snafu that I had today. And happy Father's Day. Here's the episode. Be blessed. Welcome to Keeping It Real with KC. I am your host, KC Phoenix, and today is the Father's Day episode. So, yeah, this will be pretty interesting. I don't know how long this episode will be. I take it shouldn't be that long. But before I go any further, I have to do the usual. If you could, please hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Don't forget to like the video if you like it. And if you could share the video, that would be awesome. And also, you can follow on Twitter, KIRWKC. On Instagram, the same thing, KIRWKC. And why do I feel like I'm missing something? I'm thinking. Oh, the podcasting website to listen to the podcast, because I have podcast only episodes, which there was a podcast only episode earlier, which is why you will notice a skip in the episode numbers, because some episodes are specific to the podcast. So yeah, to go to the main website of the podcast, KIRWKC.com will take you to the main site of the podcast, which is carried on other podcasting platforms, Spotify, Apple, Google, and many others. So that is out the way. Now I can go ahead and get to the Father's Day. part. Happy Father's Day to all of the fathers out there. Being a father is I know that it can be a difficult job at times, and in other times it can be a thankless job. From the stories that I've been told and from certain situations I've witnessed, and also being a father where co-parenting is involved, where the father may not be with the mother as in a relationship or married, or you have other parties involved along with that particular setup. It can at times be complicated. And I believe that people should at least acknowledge the fathers, especially when they're doing a good job. So, not just on Father's Day, but any day that a father is doing a great job. So, to all the fathers out there, again, happy Father's Day. I'm doing this episode to tell you about my father. My father is quiet, at least around us. Sometimes he talks, but he's usually quiet for the most part. Obviously, he talks a lot with my mother and with my brother from time to time. But when I would watch my father as I would grow up, he was just quiet. And one thing about my father that I always noticed was that my father has always been a hard worker. He would go to work. I think in 15 years at one job, he might have missed maybe 2 days of work, give or take. So he's not the type to call in sick or to do anything like that. If he has to work, he'll work. And there was a time when I was younger or before I was born where he was working two full-time jobs at the same time to help support, of course, the family, my mother, my brother, and so forth. So my father is an extremely hard worker, and he's a very spiritual person too. When I would talk to people about my father, I would tell them that my dad was saved. He's in very into church. And for a while, we could not get him to change the radio station from the gospel station, where it stayed on the AM gospel station all the time. And my brother and I would beg him to please turn the radio station, but he would always keep it on there. And that went on for years until, finally he decided to let us listen to other music and listen to other stations. So that was interesting how he, uh, I don't want to say acquiesce because sometimes acquiesce can have a negative connotation, but how he decided to work with us on the radio selection. But when I would tell people about my dad, I would say that he was a very patient person and that he's just been a very patient person. That's just who he is. And when we would go to church and I would hear these stories in the Bible, and for those of you who may or may not know, I'm not in the church or anything like that, and that's why I've said in other episodes I don't consider myself to deliver any type of religious message, even though I know the Bible says God can use anybody and has used anybody. But it's not my thing. I don't feel that's my calling. I deliver a different type of message to people. But when we were in church and looking at the messages and looking at the prophets and all the other information throughout history that's in the Bible, for some reason, I kept thinking about my dad over the years because he embodies the qualities of a prophet. Is my dad perfect? Absolutely not. No one is perfect. Even though me, myself, I like to claim I'm perfect, but of course I do it in jest. No one's perfect. And that's the thing about putting people up on pedestals. You'll eventually find yourself disappointed when they fall. I know my dad has imperfections. However, I also know that my dad has less imperfections than the average. I know that he has more attributes than the average. I know that my dad is so much better than average because over the decades, I've watched people, I've seen many things, more stuff than in some situations I've wanted to see over my lifetime. And one thing that has always been a constant is that my dad has been an amazing dad. He's always been there when I needed him. Another thing is with children, they pick up things from their parents. For me, the thing that I learned from my dad is unconditional love. That I did learn that it exists. And that's a huge thing it's a huge thing for me to know that I learned about unconditional love from my father. Because there have been things throughout my lifetime, things that I've done that people would question or people would judge or have an opinion about, which is totally fine because what's done is done. And my dad has still loved me unconditionally. Whether he has agreed with my actions or not, he has still loved me unconditionally. And that is, I would probably say, the biggest thing I've learned from my father, the biggest thing that I appreciate about my father is the unconditional love that he's always given me. And the same to my brother as well. And he's a very easygoing person, hard worker, easygoing, and he's just a stand-up man. And I know that there isn't anybody who could feel his shoes. There just isn't. There isn't anyone who could feel his shoes. I know everyone says they have the best dad. And some say it just to say it. I can honestly say I have the best dad and know for a fact that I do because of his unconditional love and him being such a hard worker and supporting me throughout the years. So for my dad, happy Father's Day to you, which I told you earlier, which I bought him a compass for Father's Day because he goes out walking a lot, but it was more of a keepsake thing. And for the North, it has God as the in place of the N. So, and it has a scripture on the compass. Usually they give them out at baptisms and things like that. But when I had seen it, I was like, oh, I like that. And I decided to give it to him. So I had it shipped. And I think he liked it. Not sure. I'm sure he appreciated the thought. But yeah, I wanted to do a Father's Day episode because a lot of fathers aren't appreciated for the work they do, for how hard they work. And also, I know there have been times throughout the decades where my father may have felt less than appreciated due to my actions or due to my words, which have been harsh at times. But I can tell you, whether my dad ever watches this, even though he doesn't know about the show, the girl I call my little sister does. Shout out to my little sister V. I can tell you that I appreciate my dad so much. I'm thankful because there are a lot of people whose fathers aren't with them during this Father Day. There are people whose fathers, where they may be alive, but they haven't quite stepped up to the plate to do what a father should do. I'm thankful that I had and have a father who stepped up to the plate, who was solid as a rock, who was a constant stay, who taught me about hard work, even though I can be moody and lazy at times, who was the first to teach me about unconditional love, and who also showed me that there are still some good people, because I can be quite the realist at times when it comes to people, and quite cautious when it comes to people due to past experiences. But because my dad exists, I know that there are still some good people on this planet. And that, to have a person like that in your life, that is a blessing. If you have a person like that in your life where you know your father's a good person, you know their stand up, they've been solid, they've been there for you, and you know you can go to them in your time of need, then consider yourself very lucky, very blessed, and don't forget to tell that man, Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day, Dad. And that is the show. Okay, 14 minutes. All right. Wasn't as long as I thought it was going to go, but wasn't as short as I thought it was going to be, if that makes sense. I don't know. But anyways, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on the show. KIRWKC.com for the website to catch the episodes that I don't record videos for. Those are the podcast only episodes. And the way to know that they're podcast only is it'll say the episode number, and then PCO is what will follow the episode number to let you know it's a podcast only episode. Only on the podcast, KIRWKC.com. Like, share, and subscribe on YouTube and Daily Motion, KIRWKC on Twitter, KIRWKC on Instagram. And I hope to have another show up soon. It looks like I might be getting some bandwidth, so keep your fingers crossed. Thank you again for watching. I appreciate, and listening. I appreciate all of you. Be blessed.